Good afternoon, Mrs. Emma. Today I'll be talking to you about my Ritz-Carlton experience and how the Ritz-Carlton experience can improve further. So the table of contents for today's presentation would be the nature of the department and its operational roles and responsibilities, the profile of its internal customers and external customers. Selected topics is important to the concerned department. The selected topics that is important to the concerned department, the EI competencies, the customer-centric culture, the service winner, the research methods, and lastly, the recommended courses of action. So the nature of the department role that I choose and its responsibilities. So to begin, I have selected Chili Lounge. So Chili Lounge is ranked 9 out of 11,000 plus restaurants in Singapore. So the Chili Lounge is a place to relax for high tea or like small business meetings or for drinks at night and listening to the music at the lounge. So we serve high tea from 12 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. every day, and we start operation from 9 a.m. till late at 1 a.m. at night. So in the lounge, there are 5 different ranking styles. So there are servers, captains, supervisors, assistant manager, and lastly the manager. So these are the people who make the operation and service of the lounge smooth sailing. The lounge is split into 4 different sections for operation. So this consists of the left side of the lounge, the right side of the lounge, the pantry, the cashier area. So on a normal day, there will be one manager going about trying to ensure smooth operation, one cashier to process all payments, one person working in the pantry, and 2 person working on the left side, and subsequently 2 on the right side. So the roles of the manager. So roles of the managers consist of many things. So it begins with process all reservations and oversee the operation of the lounge. So meeting with external clients for events booking, coming up with solutions and resolutions to make the lounge better, and how we can increase sales of the lounge. So he also does the communication of the management of food and beverage in the hotel. So he communicates to the higher ups so that they know what happens in the lounge, and he ushers guests into the lounge and ensures all guest needs are met, and ensure that disputes are solved as fast as possible. So the roles of the supervisor. So the roles of the supervisor would be to assist the manager in the task and allocate jobs to the server and captains which are below them. So they oversee the operations when the manager is not in, and they go through the reservation list to ensure that there is enough food for the reservation of that day itself. Also, they act as a usher to usher the guests into the lounge. And then followed by roles of the captain. So roles of the captain is to ensure that all tasks given by the supervisors and managers are managed, and they help oversee the restaurant operation as well. They also help to guide the servers to doing their daily tasks, and then they help out to carry the operation as well. And lastly, roles of the server. So roles of a server would be to set up the tables and chairs, set up the pantries, to take order from the guests, and to serve food and drinks to the guests. So each role is needed, and each role is needed to ensure that the lounge has a smooth sailing operations and all guest needs are met. So now I'll be moving on to the working hours of the employees. So employees will be working 2 different shifts. So there's a morning shift that starts from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. with a chance of being overtime, and then for the afternoon shifts, it starts from 2 p.m. to 1 a.m. So there are a few exceptions where shift starts at 6 a.m. depending if we have to open breakfast at the lounge whenever there's high occupancy. So now I'll be moving on to the profile of of our internal customers and external customers. So internal customers would mean the employees of the lounge, and this consists of 3 different countries where they come from. So Singapore, Taiwan, and largely Koreans. So most of our colleagues working in the lounge are females, and the range of age consists of around 18 to 40 years old. The estimated income of our employees range from 1,500 and above, and their level of education would be from diploma onwards. So for external customers, largely they are business guests who comes to the lounge for the meetings with their clients to talk about deals with their clients, and they consist of a range of around 30 years old onwards with a salary of around 3,000 above, and they are of equal gender and races and ethnicity. So the other group of our external customers would be foreigners. So foreigners from all around the world that hears about our lounge or our high tea will come and join us and indulge in the experience. So their estimated income would be of the higher range of about $4,000, as they are mostly wealthy people coming to the Ritz-Carlton to stay. So my selected off topic for improvement would be the operation standards and procedures. So the operation standards and procedures in the lounge is they're not very organized, so there's a lot of difference in quality control and service for our guests. For example, each staff has a different way of creating lattes, cappuccinos, iced lattes, and etc. So every different staff makes a different drink, which creates a variation of quality and standards, being latte served with a heart shape or with the Ritz-Carlton logo. So without consistency, it's difficult to retain our guests, as they might experience a fluctuation of standards, which might be very displeasing at times, as you would never like to be served a well done cappuccino with a heart shape and then followed by another cup of cappuccino that doesn't even have a art on it. It can be quite displeasing, so that's something that I'm trying to change for today's presentation. So moving on to EI competencies. So I chose recognizing patterns for number 1. So recognizing patterns is very important in Chili Lounge, as there is a huge customer base that are regulars. So we have a lot of regulars coming back to us on a daily basis. For example, there's this couple that always comes to the lounge for some drinks at night. So every time they come to the lounge, we will ask them how they are doing and ask them if they would like their favorite drink, which is the Brooklyn Gin. So everybody in the lounge knows that they like Brooklyn Gin. And for their preference, everybody knows their preference as well. They like to have a bowl of chips on the side with water and peanuts as well. So they don't have to request for anything. Everything will be prepared whenever we see them. This makes them feel very valued, and it feels like we are giving them exceptional service, because who wouldn't like to be sat down at the table with everything they wanted ready for them? So another way that we recognize patterns is as simple as guests coming to the lounge and taking a seat, and then you look at them, then you realize that they are feeling cold. So how we realize that they are feeling cold is we recognize that they are starting to rub their hands together, because they are trying to generate a bit of heat, because you might see that they are feeling cold. So whenever we see this happen, we will offer them a shawl while taking their order, and then the guests will feel immediately very touched that we care for them and we are trying to give them the best environment for them to rest and relax. So the second AI competency that I chose is to navigate emotions. So navigating emotions, it will be a very important role in working in the lounge. So for example, there are many cases where we meet very unreasonable guests. So one case in which I have experienced and I navigated my emotions well was when a guest was ordering food. So we took his order and we placed it immediately, and it was a very busy day in the lounge. And just after 5 minutes, we have this guest inquiring about his food order, and he was very angry and he was being very nasty and claiming that he has waited for a very long time. So he spoke to me in a very unreasonable tone, and it was a bit demeaning, and it really made me very angry. But however, after I tried to navigate my emotions and understand him more, I managed to calm myself down, and I replied to him nicely, explaining the situation to him. So to my surprise, that worked out very well, and he was very happy with my explanation, and he calmed himself down also and decided that he he was being unreasonable. So he did apologize, and that worked out very well. If I did not navigate my emotions well, then that would have worked out quite badly, resulting in maybe a complaint. So another example where I navigate my emotions well would be when I had a bad day at home where I fought with my parents. So before coming to work. So I was feeling very irritated and angry, and I was about to bring all of that emotions to work. However, I decided to navigate this emotion of myself, and then as I felt that it wouldn't be fair for my colleagues and my guests to be affected by my emotions that they did not cause. So I took a different approach, tried to calm myself down, and then that actually made my day a lot better, and it made work a lot more enjoyable for everybody. So yeah, that was a good way to navigate my emotions. The next EI would be to increase empathy. So I displayed an increase in empathy once when I was attending to a family of four, so two adults, two kids, young kids. And they came up to me requesting for a table, so I could see that the parents looked very tired, and it was probably because they were traveling around Singapore the entire day. So the kids were being very cranky and needy, and the parents looked like they needed a break. Thus, I decided to take it upon myself after placing the order of the guests. So I tried to entertain the kids for a while, and they seemed to be like enjoying my company, so I decided to go further, and I tried to bring them around the hotel, let them play with my colleagues so that their parents could enjoy the drink and relax a bit more. And then after a while I brought them back, so the parents were very pleased and they looked like they were very refreshed after having their drinks. So they greatly appreciated my gesture and they thanked me profusely. So I felt that after I empathized with them, I was able to act well and help them in the given situation, and that really satisfied the guests. So another example of me displaying an increase in empathy would be when a guest was feeling sick while having her high tea experience with us. So we saw that she was feeling very uncomfortable and decided to go the extra mile for her. So we offered her some chamomile tea to help her soothe her pain and help her relax a bit. And then she looked at us and she was like very thankful. So she thanked us. She thanked us like several times, and then she also came back to like emphasize that she really appreciated our help, and it was quite nice to know that a simple act of gesture would mean so much to our guests. So these are the 3 AI competencies that has helped me greatly, and yeah, I think we should value them and serve our guests using these 3 EIs. Next, I'll be moving on to the customer base of our Chili Lounge. Sorry, customer-centric culture of our Chili Lounge. So, Chili Lounge is more towards a customer-centric culture, as mentioned. So it aims to go above and beyond to please the guests and retain customer loyalty, as having guests come back every time would generate more profit than to have guests come once and then never come back ever again. So the lounge believes in doing the extra mile for the guests, maybe even spending a bit more money, as we believe that once we capture this guest attention, we can get them to stay loyal to us and recommend other people, which in turn generates more money for us. And when guests complains about something, we will ensure that we give extra care to them to make sure that they are satisfied with our service. So like, for example, if a guest complains about coffee, we make sure that we change the coffee immediately, and then we provide them with like some chocolate, some biscuits, whatever we can to do to please the guests, even if it means that we lose that coffee money for that day, because that coffee money probably only costs like $12 a cup, but if we lose the guests, then we lose more than $12 a cup. So waiving the charge of a coffee is much better than to lose the guests entirely. And then, so for one example would be when there was a customer that ordered a cappuccino, so just 1 cup of cappuccino, and he finished everything and paid for his cappuccino. So he then carried on to sit at our table, so we noticed that he wants to stay longer, so we cleared his table for him, and then we served him water and nuts as well. So we noticed that he was eating a lot of nuts, and he was adding no more value than he already has paid for that 1 cappuccino. However, we decided that we should carry on serving him, and then we noticed that he was eating a lot of the nuts, so we thought that he might be very hungry, and we decided to offer him like some beef slices that we got from the high tea. So when we offered him these beef slices, he greatly appreciated our gesture, and he told us that we didn't have to. However, we felt that it would be great to please our guests, and maybe he could recommend us in the future, as he definitely will have a great experience with he definitely had a great experience with us. So indeed, in fact, we saw him the next day, and he came back and brought a group of friends with him. So this implies that like Ritz-Carlton really is a customer-centric base, and then we use that, and we use it to our advantage and to try and generate more customers through loyalty. So example number 2 will be once where we serve elderly drinks in the lounge. So they were looking through a map, so I approached them and asked them if they needed any help with directions. So that wasn't like part of my job, because I'm just working as a server in the lounge. However, I really tried my best to give them like the directions and help that they needed, and I advised them with like many different options that they could take. So like I said, even though they were just having a drink and trying to figure out the map, and giving them direction wouldn't help us in any way to generate more profit, it might leave a very good impression on the guests, and like they will want to come back to experience like the great service that we provide. So indeed again, they came back the next day and they ordered more drinks, and yeah, so we made more money. So next I'll be moving on to the service winner. So service winner is when you go the extra mile and you really win the guests over and make them happy, please them, satisfy them in whatever way you can to retain loyalty and have them recommend us to their friends and family. So an example where this happened was once where a guest came into the lounge. So parents had 3 kids with them, and when they walked towards the lounge, I immediately greeted them and noticed that so I asked them what they needed, and like they mentioned that they went to the Colony and then they were rejected as Colony was full. So Colony is the buffet restaurant in Ritz-Carlton. So kids would be very cranky and hungry. So I offered them our bar menu. However, our bar menu has little options for kids, as it was more for adults to indulge on. So nonetheless, we sat them down, let them order their food, and then they ordered some food. However, nothing seems to be pleasing the kids. So I went to the table again, asked the kids if they like to have some mushroom soups with bread. So the kids, to my surprise, were very happy with that suggestion and they were very excited. So I immediately ran over to Colony, got some mushroom soup for them, and they were very happy. So this simple act of gesture really won them over, and they were amazed by our service. And yeah, so this is an example of a service winner. So another example would be when a guest came to the lounge and sat down. So he requested to see our drink menu, and then he was very interested in our signatures and our recommendations. So I recommended him Helena. So Helena was a drink made by our very own bartender Martin, and he made that drink for the Bacardi Legacy 8 competition, and he actually won first place for it. So as Martin was working on that day, I recommended this drink, and when I served this drink, this guest was impressed with the drink. So from that experience, I didn't just stop there. I actually suggested to the guest that maybe he would like to learn more about the drink and speak to Martin himself, and I recommended that he actually move to the bar so that he could see Martin make the drink and hear Martin's explanation through his creation of this drink. So the guest agreed on it, and I helped him move. And sure enough, the guest was very engaged with Martin, and he really had a good time trying out all the different cocktails that Martin made for him. And Martin even went the extra mile to give him like samples of drinks that Martin was trying out. So the guest really had a engaging time, and yeah, that's another example of a service winner. So the research method that I use for identifying the problem of our lounge in terms of service standards and procedures would be structured observation. So it is a method where there is no direct involvement with the participants, and researchers just observe them. So the way I did it was I observed many guests throughout the morning shifts. So they were all having their cappuccinos and lattes in the day. So these guests have frequent our lounge regularly, and you could see them every other day. So because every other day not the same people will be working the morning shift, so different people will make different lattes, as I mentioned earlier. So we have some regulars. I observed that some regulars were displeased with our coffee lattes and cappuccinos, as like I mentioned earlier, some were with heart shape, some were without, and then they said the guests complained that the service standards were fluctuating, and sometimes the coffee tastes really good and sometimes the coffee tastes really bad. So I then observed how people make the coffee and realized that everybody uses a different amount of espresso, milk, water to make their lattes, as well as methods. So some might use the machine, just press a button and then done. Some might just steam the milk, add the espresso in, do the heart shape, and some might put on the Ritz-Carlton logo on it. So different methods, different results, and different guests liking different things. So it was quite, after you observe it, you realize how messy things were in our lounge, and we didn't have a standardized procedure. So another method that I used to research on was the in-depth interview. So I did a interview with my manager, and I found out what were his expectations. So he mentioned a few things like how the coffee bag shouldn't be placed in the coffee, as leaving the coffee bag in the how the tea bags shouldn't be placed in the teapot, as leaving the tea bags in the teapot would thicken the tea as times go by. So he wants us to remove the tea bags to have the same consistency as the guests enjoy their tea. And then for coffee, he mentioned that he wanted everybody to be able to do latte art for the coffee and have a very nice latte art so that he can serve guests, as guests from overseas likes to take picture of everything. So coffee latte art, definitely something that would be picture perfect for the guests. So he wanted that to be done. And then he wanted like small minor things like biscuit being left on the coffee saucer instead of separate, as he found that business guests did not want to take from a separate saucer because they felt like it was not very nice. And if you actually observe, he mentioned that if you left the cookie at the saucer instead of separate from the saucer, they would actually eat it from the saucer. And then if you left it separately, they wouldn't even touch it, as they felt like it was a bit not a nice gesture to share with their clients. So he also mentioned how the 8 course should be done, and then the procedures that he wanted. For example, like he wants the tea to be served together with the 3rd course. So he doesn't want the tea to be served right at the start, as there is a welcome drink served for the guests. So he wants the guests to be able to indulge in the welcome drink. Then after they finish the welcome drink, then we will serve the tea, so that the tea will not be cold by the time they finish their welcome drink. So little things that he wants, but it actually creates a big impact after I took some time to think about it. So my recommended course of action would be to send everyone down for the same coffee training, so that everyone has a standardized way of doing coffee. And also when a new staff or interns joins, have them go through the coffee training. If it's not possible, then have a staff to guide them through and pass on the necessary knowledge before allowing them to make their own coffee. So this will create a higher standard of coffee in our lounge. And then it'll be good for us to also have a self-guided booklet. So this self-guided booklet will contain information of operation needs and how to make coffee, how to serve guests, and whatever you need to know, such as table settings and how to open up the pantry. Everything will be included in the self-guided booklet. So for example, if you look at the image, so Chuli image figure 1, so you'll see that Chuli breakfast opening checklist. So this is a checklist that I have created. So it will allow the staff to go through this checklist to ensure that everything is being done, so that nothing is being left out. So with this, it'll be very easy to ensure that everything all operation needs will be met, so that we can have a smooth sailing operation. If not, if you miss out on certain things like simple things like taking a box of cookie from the pastry kitchen, you won't have enough cookies to serve at the end of the day. So we don't want to miss out on any of that, so this is a good way to keep track of whatever we need to do. So if you look at figure 2, same as figure 1, however it will be morning opening instead of breakfast opening. So there's a checklist for the morning opening, and lastly figure 3, which is the night shift closing time. So night shift closing time, it will guide you through how to close the pantry and etc. So these are the service recommendations and operation standards that I think are necessary in order for Chile to improve. So yeah, so the recommendations and everything that I listed, I believe that it will help truly improve and maybe reach top 3 in the near future. Thank you.